Hello, folks. I got some sad news over the weekend that Mel Weitzman, the abbot of Berkeley Zen Center, passed away on January 7th. Ironically, I believe January 7th is the date that my mother passed away in 2007, although I'd have to look up a calendar from that era to figure out if it was, I believe it was January 7th. If it wasn't January 7th, it was very close. Anyway, I'm real sad to hear that Mel Weitzman has passed away. He was one of my favorite Zen teachers around, the current crop. One Zen teacher who I respect and who I'll refrain from naming because what I'm about to say told me that when he was at the San Francisco Zen Center back in the 1970s, the only teacher at San Francisco Zen Center that impressed him was Mel Weitzman. So I thought that was interesting. Mel was a real good teacher, a real good guy. He was one of the first people who sat with Shunryu Suzuki when Shunryu Suzuki was. It wasn't even the San Francisco Zen Center at that time, I don't think. It was Sokochi, maybe was the name. They had a smaller little center that was basically catering to the Japanese American immigrant population at the time, and a few non-Japanese people started sitting with Shunryu Suzuki, and Mel Weitzman was one of them. He wasn't the first in there, but he was among the first within the first couple of years, I think, or first handful of years that Suzuki Roshi was offering public zazen. And not many people were showing up. The Japanese immigrant community weren't really showing up for the public zazen. But anyway, he was one of the first people. So he was a person who did this for a long time. I can't say I really knew Mel personally. I met him a handful of times. And the one incident where I met him that really stands out, though, was very helpful for me, and I'll tell you about it, but it turns out it's not really a story about Mel, it's more a story about me, but maybe it relates to something about Mel Weitzman. But I'm a friend of Greg Fain, who is the Tanto, i.e. practice leader at Tassajara, and Greg is a student of Mel Weitzman. And Greg invited me to come and sit a sesshin, a 7-day zazen intensive at the Berkeley Zen Center that he was going to be attending and that Mel was going to lead. And I don't remember what year this was. It had to be about 10 years ago at least. Yeah, probably 10 years ago. So I went there, and my teacher, Gudo Wafu-Nishijima, Roshi, was not a big fan of 7-day sesshin. He had a kind of philosophy that said that you should not separate your Zen practice from your regular life. And he felt that a sesshin of any longer than 4 days tended to make a person too separated from their regular life, and so he never had sesshins any longer than 4 days. In fact, 3 days was his preferred length for a sesshin. But 7 days is a very normal thing. This is not something Mel Weitzman invented or something. 7 days is a very normal sort of sesshin. I'm sure even Dogen had 7-day sesshins. It's really common practice. And I'd done a couple of 7-day sesshins before, but this is maybe my third or fourth time to do a longer sesshin. And just FYI, in case you want to know, 7-day sesshins are exactly like 3-day sesshins, only longer. I know that sounds weird, but they have exactly the same peak and trough sort of structure that I got used to doing 3-day sesshins. So. But they were longer, and it's, you get more, I don't know what to say, you get more something. So I signed up for this 7-day sesshin, and as part of this sesshin, you could sign up for Dokusan with Mel Weitzman, and Dokusan is a private talk. You just come in and sit and talk with the person for 5 or 10 minutes, who's leading the sesshin. And so I signed up. And what had been going on at the time was that I was running this little Zen group out of the Hill Street Center in Santa Monica, and it had been going on for, I don't know, a couple of years by then. I don't know how many years. And I was having some difficulty with it. It wasn't going as well as I liked, and there were some personal problems with people that I was having in the group, who were sort of believing it was their duty and responsibility to tell me how my private life should be organized. And I don't know if they were right or wrong, but it was really annoying to me to have to deal with this all the time. And so I went to see Mel and talk to him about it, because he runs a Zen center. He's been running a Zen center for years. Maybe he has some good ideas about how to deal with these kind of difficulties that one has with one's sangha, that one is the head of. And so I sat there and I told him all my troubles and difficulties I was having with this group. And he just said one thing to me, which was a question. And the question was, what is your bottom line with your group? And I thought about it for a second, and I said, well, my bottom line is I sit Zazen every day. At the time, I happened to be living at the Hill Street Center, so I said, I sit Zazen every day, and on Saturdays, I open the doors at 10 a.m., and anybody who wants to sit Zazen with me can do so. Now, Mel didn't give me any advice. He listened, and I don't even remember exactly what he said, but he asked the right question that prompted the response, and that has been my bottom line with every Zen group I've ever run ever since, is that I sit Zazen every day, and on certain days you can come and sit Zazen with me, because I'll open the door and let you sit. And that's it. That's what I do. Everything else is superfluous and extra, and icing on the cake or sprinkles on the ice cream or whatever you want to think of it. That's not the real thing. The real thing is I sit every day, rain or shine, and 1 or 2 days a week or whatever it happens to be at the time, you can come and join me. Now, I told this story to Greg, who I spoke to after I heard the announcement of Sojun Mel Weitzman Roshi's death. And he said to me, oh, Mel must have been really pleased. I guess you were quoting Shunryu Suzuki. And I said, was I quoting Shunryu Suzuki? As far as I know, I wasn't quoting Shunryu. I wasn't quoting anybody. I was just telling him what my bottom line was with my group. And Greg pointed out that was what Shunryu Suzuki told the original students who started coming to sit with him, or were interested in coming to do Zazen with him at, I said Sokoji, I think it was called Sokoji, don't quote me, but anyway, at the place that he founded before, or he didn't found it, he was installed in it by the Sotoshu, I guess. I don't know the whole story. Read the book Crooked Cucumber if you want to know the whole story of how that came about. David Chadwick wrote it. It's a good book. But anyway, that's apparently what Shunryu Suzuki told people like Mel who were interested in learning about Zazen, was I sit here every day, and here's the time that I sit, and if you want to join me, you can join me. So that was Suzuki Roshi's bottom line. I didn't realize it when I said it to Mel, but I do now, because Greg pointed it out. And I think that's a good bottom line to have for anybody who wants to start a Zen group. This is sort of the advice I give to people who want to start amateur Zen groups. I'm not exactly encouraging people to start sort of amateur Zen groups, but I don't think there's any harm in it. Of what I mean by an amateur Zen group is a group where there's no sort of transmitted teacher or priest or anything. You're just a group of people who want to come and sit Zazen together. As long as you don't represent yourself as something you're not, then fine, just have the group and do it like that. Do it like what I just described. You're sitting Zazen, and other people can join you if they want, and that's fine. A lot of groups like that around the country and around the world. Anyway, that's my memories of Mel Weitzman. I know it wasn't really that much about Mel Weitzman, because, like I say, I only met him a handful of times, and I didn't know him very well, but I admired his teaching when I read it in books. Apparently there's a book of his stuff coming out. I don't think there's been a full book of Mel Weitzman's teachings so far, but apparently this year there's going to be one. So I look forward to seeing that, because the stuff I've read on the internet, stuff I've heard from him in person, the stuff I've heard from Greg, and et cetera, has been really good. Anyway, if you want to donate to helping me buy that book by Mel Weitzman when it comes out, or whatever, or buy dog food for Ziggy, or Pop-Tarts, or whatever, I don't know. You can send a donation. The URL below will take you to my Patreon and PayPal links. That is my only way of making a living right now. That's my sole source of income, except for a trickle here and there from book royalties. I got a check for $130 the other day, so there you go. Anyway, That's it. If you're having financial trouble, don't send me money though, because I'm doing all right, but I'm doing all right because people do keep sending me money, and I thank you very much for that. So have a good time all the time. See you later. Bye.